I still consider myself fairly new to crypto. I still don't consider myself an expert at all. But that was something where being involved with the team and promoting and shilling and all that stuff and sort of moderating that community chat, it was something I really enjoyed. Um, so I launched my own project on July 4th of this year on the Solana chain called 1776. It is slightly politified, but it's more about just freedom, free speech, the values that a lot of people in crypto agree with as far as freedom from overarching government, freedom from the centralized banking system, and the determination of the individual to sort of make their own way in the world. And that's something that I think is a message that's going to resonate with a lot of people. So I launched that and then quickly got involved with some other projects. I do love investing. I think that everybody should be diversified as far as their portfolio goes, specifically in meme coins, and you never want to have all your eggs in one basket. So I've advised a couple other projects. I host spaces where projects can come up and talk about their token. Sometimes those are sponsored where if it's a project that I like, they'll provide some allocation or some stable coin and in exchange for that space. And it's something that I very much enjoy. I think that when we have mass adoption happen and when all of these normies come into the crypto space, I think that it's important that we think about meme coins as where they're going to go, because I don't think that they're going to be picking Bitcoin or Ethereum or a chart. I think they're going to pick a message that resonates to them, whether it's a cartoon dog or whatever it may be. I think it's going to be something that they can really relate to and they have an emotional connection with. And I think that when this mass adoption happens, that we in the crypto space have a very big responsibility to be good custodians of these people's money, in terms of like whether you're an influencer and you're telling people to buy something. I think that you have a responsibility to do that in a safe way. If you're a token dev, I think it's important that you're not rugging or farming people, because when these normies come into the crypto space, if they have a good experience, they're going to tell everybody, and then we have more people in the crypto space. If they have a bad experience, they're going to tell everybody plus everybody plus everybody else, and that is bad for this mass adoption coming. And it's also the right thing to do. I mean, I think it's doing the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing, I believe is important, but it's also eventually going to make us all richer, because as these people come in, they're not just going to buy one project. I do believe that a rising tide lifts all ships, and I think that the days of project versus project and person versus person and everything PvP is over. And we've got so much liquidity that's going to be coming into the space in general, that the projects that work together do the right thing, and the investors, callers, influencers, whatever you want to call them, that do the right thing for their followers are going to see much more gains. And I really think that we, as leaders in this space, have the responsibility to make sure that these people who come in during the mass adoption have a good experience. Sorry, that was a little bit of a run on, but yeah, that's sort of my crypto bio.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a run on. It was a great framework. You said a lot of things that I resonate with, and a lot of the people in the audience will know I've frequently said the same thing about a rising tide, raising all ships, and the kind of abundance mindset that you should bring to this space. You really should bring it to everything you do, but especially with something like crypto, it's just such a new industry with so much potential. It's crazy that people think in such narrow mindsets, but that's kind of humans being human. Um, and whenever I hear people that are like Bitcoin maxis who say that Bitcoin's going to succeed and everything else is just going to disappear, that's kind of where I tend to jump in and talk about that abundance mindset, that this is a new industry and there's a lot of different use cases, and it's not just Bitcoin, or not just meme coins, or not just Ethereum, but it's all of the things. It's everything kind of coinciding and just growing as a space, as a whole. So I definitely love the background of getting into Doge, and then kind of dipping your toes in deeper um, as you learn more about the industry. Funny enough, Inleo launched on July 3rd. That was back in 2019, but a day before you launched on July 4th. So that's definitely awesome. So when you first got into the space and you started obviously diving into it and then getting into meme coins, what are some things you noticed in terms of adoption and just other people kind of getting into it? Were people kind of telling you that this was crazy? Were they telling you that you were crazy? We've all kind of had some kind of experience of that. So in terms of adoption, both on your perspective as well as
Sorry, I was fighting with the mute button. Yeah, there's sort of. I mean, I guess I'll share a funny story about that because there was a day in the not so recent past that I was supposed to go on a date with this girl, and there was a project that I was part of the team that had an absolutely ridiculous name. That's not PG-13 at all, but it was funny. It was a funny narrative, and the team was amazing. And so she's in real life. I own a contracting style business where we do home improvements and stuff. And so she knew I did that. So anyway, she wants me to come over and watch a movie with her. And I'm having this conversation. I'm like, look, I do some stuff that you don't really know about that makes money. And I've really got to be involved in that. And she's like, what do you do? And she keeps asking these questions. And I believe in authenticity and honesty and is important in all aspects of life. And so I'm sort of tiptoeing around it. And she's like, I really wanted to see you. I really wanted to watch a movie. I'm like, I understand. I got to do something tonight that's going to, make some money for an investment that I'm involved in. She's like, what kind of investment? I said, oh, it's a cryptocurrency project. She's like, oh God. So you're one of those Bitcoin guys. And I'm like, well, no, it's not exactly Bitcoin. She's like, well, what's it called? And I'm sitting there. I'm like, do I tell this person, this woman, this absolutely ridiculous, absurd name of a token or not? And it was sort of like, this weird thing weighing on my mind as we're texting back and forth. And I was like, I don't even know how the fuck to explain this because this chick is going to think I'm insane. She's going to think I'm ridiculous. Luckily, it wasn't really serious anyway. So I just went ahead and sort of ignored that last question and did not see her again. But it's funny because, when you're talking to a normal human being and you're deep in the meme coin trenches, and they're like, what are your investments? What are you making money on? And you can't tell them, Obama, boner pill, monkey shit, Inu, because then they think you're fucking insane. But it's funny to us because like we'll talk about projects that have the most ridiculous names ever, and it's just normal. So it's definitely interesting having that interaction with the normal people, especially because I still think that most people think that the meme coin space is just absolutely ridiculous. So it is definitely it's definitely an experience having those conversations. There have been several people that I've onboarded that have made money and that have enjoyed it. And so, I do feel like I feel like you can't really say it as much to a stranger on the street. Although I have had that happen. I dressed up in a T-shirt that said, asked me about crypto and went to a couple Trump rallies here and we talked about our project. It was really cool. And we onboarded some of them, obviously, because, Trump and JD Vance and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK are all crypto maxis. However, when you're talking to your friends and family and normal people, and this, I mean, just last night I was having a conversation with my sister and she's like, no, Bitcoin's a scam. You need to be invested in the stock market or like something that is real and tied to the US dollar. And I'm sitting there and in my mind, the US dollar is the biggest financial scam of all time. You've got a government that continues to print money whenever they want to versus Bitcoin, which is an asset that has a finite amount backing it, to where there's never going to be another Bitcoin after they're all mined. And to me, that's a much safer investment than putting stuff in something dollar backed to where the government's just going to print several more $trillion next year. But yeah, so the conversations are interesting. The crypto it's twofold. So there's the crypto conversation, which some people still think we're weirdos for being involved in crypto, and then the second part to sort of tie into your question is the meme coin part, because there's the heavy duty Bitcoiners and Ethereum people who just they long and short the chart of Bitcoin or Ethereum or the stables, and then there's like the meme coin, which is sort of seen as this crazy fringe, like the Wild West, where people all act out and all the tokens sound funny, and that's a whole nother conversation. So yeah, again, I got to stop rambling, but I feel like I brought it home there at the end to answer your question. But it's just different, man. I mean, when you're talking to people who aren't in the trenches and haven't been in this space, and trying to explain that something called gas station boner pill inu is a legitimate investment, that has a strong team behind it and a community that keeps promoting it, and some influencers behind it. And again, I'm not invested in gas station boner pill inu, but I'm just saying a funny name. And then you've got you're sort of trying to explain it, and it's fun. A lot of times there's laughter. A lot of times people look at you like you're crazy. So I do think there has to be a degree of trust built up there before you mention it. With my project, which is called 1776 on Solana, it's a little easier because we talk about the message and the narrative, and all the art and stuff is very patriotic. So for someone who is, a proud American, it's easy for them to see that as a legitimate asset. Whereas some of the other meme coins, it's a little tougher, but it's still, I mean, it leads to some very, very, very interesting conversations.
Yeah, I've definitely found the meme coin onboarding point to be very interesting because I think a lot of people are obviously shaken off by the names and the craziness behind it, but then there's plenty of other people who are fascinated by it because it's fast moving, it's volatile, it's quick, it's kind of like an adrenaline rush and a big dopamine hit. So I have noticed kind of both sides of the spectrum as well, as people have talked about it. What was your overall, especially since we're kind of a little focused on the political meme coin side of things today. What was your experience this past election cycle when it came to meme coins? So obviously there were all the different meme coins kind of leading up, before election day, but then things kind of started to get wild, as we approached, when people were starting to vote and everything like that. There was a lot of I just remember so much activity, so many different coins coming out, so many different predictions being had. Obviously, poly market became a big conversation in TradFi and the media. But what was your experience of political meme coins leading up to that event?
Yeah, I mean, I think you put them in two different categories. There's the election centric ones, like the Trump coins, or the Kamala Harris coins, or the Tim Walz coins, or the JD Vance coins, which I think there were probably 1,000 of each of those. Some were funny, some were serious. They're all over on all different chains. And then there's the ones that I feel like have a longer narrative. I feel like ours is one of those. And then, like, I'll give a shout out to one of my friends in the space who runs the Alex Jones token, because he's always coming out with new content. So I think that some are going to are going to have a very short shelf life. Several have already, expired. And then you've got the ones with the narrative that transcends the election. And I think those ones will continue to do well. Like Tucker Carlson's another one. It's like a Tucker Carlson tribute token, and that guy's going to be around for a while. But it's definitely still a thing, especially centered around Elon Musk's social media presence. So Elon Musk tweeted a meme about 2 days ago, maybe it was 3 days ago, where he called CNN QNN, the Questionable News Network. Within 45 seconds, I'm on Deck Screener looking for QNN because I knew that one of them was going to send, right? There were like 300 tokens to scroll through and figure out which one might be the okay one, literally within 15 minutes of Elon Musk tweeting this little meme making fun of CNN. So there's definitely going to be a use case for Politify, and it's going to continue to exist. But I think it's going to be more driven by, news events, social media, what happens. And I think a lot of them are going to be quick in and outs because, again, it's going to be like a flash in the pan. It's not going to be something where Elon Musk is going to continually tweet QNN, most likely. But yeah, I do think that, and I'll tie this back to my previous point about when the normies come in. I think that they're going to pick things that they resonate with. And a lot of them are going to get into crypto because of some of those pro-American, pro-freedom values. And that's something that they're really going to resonate with. So I think that when they find, the community and the project that has that sort of narrative, I think that that's where they're going to put their money. And the cool thing about normies is that when they come in, And I'll give you an example of this. The first person I ever onboarded in crypto, this was right after I bought into Doge. I was like, dude, you need to do this. It was one of my neighbors. He had never bought crypto either. And so I think he bought like $100. And he texted me about 6 months ago and said, hey, do you remember that weird phrase to get into that crypto thing that you showed me all those years ago? Because I haven't looked at it and I want to see if it's worth any money. So we figured out where he put his seed phrase. He gets into his wallet and it's like that $100 turned into, several tens of thousands of dollars. My point is, when the normies come in, they're going to hold like nobody else we've ever seen. Like the PvP world of the Solana trenches, I think, is going to be done. The people who swing charts are going to be done because these aren't like day traders and these aren't like people who just want a quick buck. They're used to investing in the stock market for years for like a 5 to 10% return every year. And so I really think that we're going to see a lot of the newer people in the crypto space who are just going to be like buy, hold, and forget. And that's really good for all of our bags, and that's really good for all of these projects that are out here working hard.
Yeah, that's been a narrative even since the beginning of Bitcoin, which is a lot of people just buy and then, how much Bitcoin is out there that will never even be claimed. So I definitely agree with that. And just a diversified, one thing that's always excited me about future adoption is just having a really diversified holder base, people just of all different walks of life with all different perspectives of the future. I think is generally a good thing for the industry as it matures. Um, so with I mentioned Polymarket a little bit, and I'm just curious to know your perspective on that. So, talked a little bit about meme coins and how it kind of came to be in the election cycle. But how do you feel about Polymarket and kind of the rise of that betting space? I know it was obviously very centered around the election, but I think there's a lot of use cases for something like a Polymarket. So what is your perspective of that and how it kind of has evolved throughout this cycle?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think that Polymarket has helped meme coins because a lot of the people that I know that are involved in meme coins are sort of gamblers at heart. Like essentially, that's how this all started. It's like let's make something silly and see if we can make some money off of it. And I feel like that's definitely a gambler's mindset. And the people who that I know who bet on sports and are into meme coins, they definitely were placing bets on stuff during the election. I mean, I can tell you, I won a fairly sizable bet because you could actually take during the first presidential debate, you could take the side of Donald Trump was going to interrupt the moderator at least once. And so I put a bunch of money on that. And I think he interrupted the moderator like 21 times. So personally, I had some fun on Polymarket because it's fun, right? It's like placing bets on these silly things and then watching them come to fruition. It's fun. It's an interactive form of gambling where it's sort of like I'll equate it to watching a football game where you don't care about either team, but if you put a little bit of money on one of them, or put money on certain players to do well, or play fantasy football or whatever it is, all of a sudden you've got people to root for. You're emotionally invested and you're having fun when normally you wouldn't give a shit because you don't care about either team. So I feel like Polymarket has drawn a lot more engagement to the meme coin space, specifically the Politify meme coin space, and really to the election and politics as a whole. Because all of a sudden it's not just, well, this is who I want to win, I'm going to vote for him, but it creates engagement and interaction in a more specific, detailed way into the little nuances and things that happen. And I think that definitely translated into people being excited about Politify tokens and really bringing together sort of crypto politics and the election. And I think it's important that it happened this year because this is the first time where you could really break down the election in terms of cryptocurrency, because there was a very, very, very pro crypto administration and then a very, very, very anti crypto administration. And so I think that mixed with Politify, mixed with sort of the meme coins being at the capacity and the market size that we've never seen before. Those three things together really integrated engagement into crypto, the election cycle, and things like Polymarket.
Yeah, I I definitely noticed that as well. And like I was saying, I think there's a lot of different perspectives of people that are being onboarded to the crypto space. And I think that servicing, the people who do want to gamble and do want to, kind of have fun with these things is definitely not a bad thing. I know that meme coins can get a bad rap because, a lot of people just think they're, bullshit or just, really just stupid like memes. But I think they forget that a lot of people just want to have fun and they want to bit of an escape from reality. And if they can make some money doing it too, that's obviously a good thing. And there's a reason why sports and sports betting is such a huge industry. And just gambling in general is such a huge industry. So I don't shun away from or shy away from, this part of the space. I think it can be a really good onboarding point. And just kind of remove some of the seriousness. It's really easy to just be overly serious in this space. So that's something I've truly enjoyed. So how do you feel? I'll ask you the question now that we're about halfway through the show. How do you feel about political meme coins? Like, do you feel like the era of them is over? Do you feel like it was kind of like the big bubble happened and we saw, this massive explosion in terms of politics, meme coins, and poly market? Or do you feel like it's just getting started? Do you think this is the beginning of, more people getting interested in things like meme coins and things like poly market and how they affect, kind of real world events?
Yeah, and I'll go back to something I sort of touched on a little bit. I think that number one, no, I don't think the end is here for political meme coins. That being said, I do think that the narrative has become extremely more important. There's three things in any token I look at before investing it and or buying it or promoting it or whatever. And that's, does it have a strong team, a good dev, people who are ethical at the top? Number two, does it have a strong community where the people are active, they're asking questions, they're actively engaging and commenting on Twitter posts, commenting in Telegram, whatever it is. And then part three is the narrative. Is this something that I think will resonate with people? And I think that the narrative is what's so important about the political meme coins that are going to continue to be in existence. Because again, if it's a Kamala Harris coin, it's done. No one's going to buy it. Not just because she lost the election, but because the election's over. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. And I feel the same way about most of the Trump tokens because he's won the election. Yes, he's going to be around for the next 4 years. So we might see some life left in them. But the ones that were like so specific to the election without having a lasting narrative that goes beyond November, those ones are done, in my opinion. But I mean, there are several tokens that I can think of that I do think have that lasting narrative. 1776 being one. There is I talked about Jones and Tucker, and then there's another one called Make America Greater, which Elon has continued to say Make America Greater. So it's not MAGA, which was sort of the slogan of the last two elections. That one could send. What are a couple more? There's some funny ones out there that could do well. There's a good friend of mine who's actually also a chair of the Republican Party in Florida, has a project that's like a funny Donald Trump mega token. And I think that one, because they keep putting out content and keep it relevant with current events. And then there's another one that's another Doge, but instead of the dog, it's the Department of Government Efficiency, which is, you guys know, Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk are heading up. So I think that could have some legs. But the stuff where it's election centric is done. And politics are going to stay at the forefront of everything. I mean, if you remember the last 4 years under Trump, yes, everybody's excited that he won. Now we've got 4 years of the media being so upset and butthurt over everything he says and does. We've got 4 years of him sending mean tweets back out at them. We've got 4 years of Elon just trolling everybody because he's hilarious. And so I think that there's a lot of that yet to come. And so I think there's a lot of political projects that'll do well. I mean, to your point, memes are fun. Memes are supposed to be fun. That's why they are meme coins and not, this something like Bitcoin. They're supposed to be fun. They're supposed to elicit laughter, elicit emotion. And there's so many. I hate using the word meme when talking about meme coins, but there's so many memeable aspects of the political realm that come out because the two sides want to make fun of each other. The liberals want to make fun of conservatives, the conservatives want to make fun of liberals, and then there's like the fringe crazies on each side. So I think that when there's still content coming out in social media and there's still things to laugh about, there will still be meme coins in that genre that do well.
Yeah, it's really an engagement question. It's like, do people continue to talk about these things and stay engaged about them? How does so obviously your project and coin are pretty heavily tied to, politics and just kind of America, obviously being called 1776. So how do let's dive into that a little bit. How did it come about? What was the original idea, and what's kind of what's happening with it today?
Yeah, so it's a bunch of us who were involved in another project where the dev was doing some shady stuff. The dev basically disappeared after farming everybody. And we decided, let's launch something, let's do it the right way, let's be the good guys. Because that's always been something that's important to me. And I thought that the 1776 narrative of free speech, private ownership of property, just truth in general, and being able to think freely is something that's global. I've got some friends that live in the UK, and several of them are actually on my team. And we were having a conversation, I remember, in voice chat. And this is one of the ways that shout out to Michael. I see he's here. Michael's the guy I was talking about who runs another Politify project that I think could do well. Everyone give him a follow. He's got some good alpha too. So anyway, we're having this conversation in voice chat. And one of the English people who I'm friends with, who's again a team member, was talking about how in England at that very moment, people they had a influx of illegal immigrants, and those illegal immigrants at a higher proportion than normal would sexually assault women and children. And so as they were doing this, they were getting like 2 months. I mean, absolutely crazy low sentences for sexually assaulting women and children. But then the English people, if they went on Facebook to say, hey, it is wrong to abuse women and children sexually, and it's happening because of illegal immigrants, they would get thrown in jail for like 2 years for, I forget what they called it. I think it was like inciting hate speech or something, because this criminal happened to be an illegal immigrant but came over to England and raped a child. Those people are being thrown in jail for posting that on Facebook for longer than the immigrants are getting for raping the children. And so I'm like, dude, this can't be true. And I looked it up. I found some places where the Prime Minister of the UK and some of the higher ranking police officials were talking about exactly what this guy said. I'm like, wow, this is insane. Free speech is under attack across the world. So that's how 1776 came to be, because it's something where free speech has been under attack for a long time. I mean, you've heard about censorship in the news, censorship on social media, all that stuff. And it's a global problem. It's not just an American problem. Yes, we have an American themed token. However, it is a global talking point that people want to maintain their individual freedoms. And there is a very strong movement by some of the world's governmental leaders and big tech leaders and big corporation leaders to suppress that free speech. I mean, you guys saw what happened during COVID. People were ridiculed and locked up for speaking out against whatever the government and the media wanted you to think. And so I think that free speech meta is something that isn't going anywhere. So anyway, we launched our token on July 4th. Obviously, 1776 was a good name for those who don't know or maybe from another country. July 4th, 2024 was the 248th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence against England, where the United States became this brand new country. And the reason we did that was because they had an overarching government that was trying to overtax us, that was not representing the people of America, and basically was doing some stuff that is anti-freedom. So we launched the token based on the freedom meta. And we had a really good start. I definitely made some mistakes, and we learned a lot. We ran up pretty quickly to a $3 million market cap. We spent some money on some of the wrong callers for sure. We had some team members who sold irresponsibly and wrecked the chart a little bit. We retraced down to 50K. And since then have been working and grinding. I think we're back up to about 120 right now. And we're going to get it back to that 3 million plus mark. I'm confident of that because I think that the narrative is something that will really resonate with all these people coming into the crypto space. We have a merch store on the way where we're going to sell, American branded apparel with the 1776 logo all over it, and that the proceeds from that are going to go back into the marketing wallet. And then we've also got a podcast. So we've done a couple episodes of the podcast so far. One is all about how to safely get into crypto for normies. The second one was actually very entertaining. We talked about government overreach and some of the stuff the government does that is anti-freedom. And we had Joe Exotic, the guy you will remember from Tiger King fame on Netflix, who was our guest on that podcast. So we're going to continue to crank out that kind of content. Again, look for the merch store coming soon, and we're going to keep working. This is something that it's a passion project for me. Like, I don't care if I had never make $1 on it. It's something that I believe that the narrative and the message are far too strong to let it die.
Yeah, I love that mission of just trying to do good. And I think generally just a good practice in life, like do good things. Everyone kind of knows the right things to do. It's more just a matter of, are you willing and able, and spending your time trying to do those right actions. You mentioned some mistakes since you started the project, and some things as you've kind of made the journey from launching to a $3 million market cap, down to 50, and then now back to, I think you said, about 120K. Um, what were some of the biggest mistakes you made, and what did you learn from those, and how are you applying it kind of in real time?
Yeah, so I fired off marketing at a bunch of big callers before we had built a really strong community. And that's something where if you have a community, I hate the word cult like because cults are seen as crazy people, but if you have a community that has that cult like mentality where they're going to hold and they believe in the project long term and they have that conviction, then you're not going to have people swinging charts. And when we got some of these bigger influencers or callers in early, they didn't bring in people who had that same mentality that we did. They were just chasing green candles. And when you chase green candles, again, especially before mass adoption is here, it's an easy way to get wrecked. And we definitely had some people selling irresponsibly. Again, we had some arguments between team members, and some of the team members full clipped out. And what I would say, if I had to do it again, I would do what we're doing now, which is more organic growth, get the community strong, make sure everybody has conviction, and then spend the money on marketing. That would be my biggest learning lesson. Also, choosing who to trust is so important, and it's crypto Twitter, right? It's crypto Twitter, it's crypto Telegram, it's strangers on the internet, and there's people that you'll resonate with that you met, a day or two ago that will end up completely screwing you over. And that trust is something that's built over time. So I would definitely have narrowed my circle of who I brought into the project early. And I think this is pretty common. I talk to a lot of developers and project owners who sort of have learned the same lessons. And the good news is we're all getting better. And that's all you can do in any aspect of life is try to get a little bit better every day. And in everything, you either win or you learn. And I feel like we've had a lot of wins and we've had a lot of learns. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like the perspective, wins and learns, and especially in a space as fast moving as this, you're going to be making mistakes, and it's impossible to get everything right. So, yeah, I definitely like that perspective, and just being willing to kind of put yourself out there, do different things, and see what works, see what doesn't, and then obviously learn and evolve your approach as you go. And on the point of community, I've always been a big fan of the 1000 True Fans article from Kevin Kelly, and how that applies to building a project in this ecosystem, and just really focusing on your layer zero, or your community, the hardcore people that will support you no matter what, and kind of buy into your vision, and then also really help you propel that vision forward. Um, so we've made it to the 45-minute mark, so I kind of want to switch over to the audience questions. So, throughout the show, the Threadcast has been live, and I've gotten some good questions so far. If you're listening to this in the audience, the Threadcast is linked in the X space. So, click that link, and then you can ask more questions there. I've got about 6 pulled up now, and I'll try to get a few more if you ask them, and then pull them up in a new tab. Um, One good question I saw to start with is from Ahmad Manga. He asked if 1776 is listed on Binance. I'll reframe that a little bit and ask, where is 1776 listed in terms of being able to trade it?
I don't have any exchanges listed yet, so it's all done on Phantom Wallet through Jupiter or Radium. You can buy it through either one of those. To me, exchanges are a double-edged sword. So if you get big enough, you definitely want the exchange listing. Once you get to that 50 to 100 mil plus market cap, I think that exchange listings are important to get exposure to the next level. The tough thing about having a smaller cap project with a listing, whether it's Gate.io or MEXC or Bitmart or whatever, is that it gives people the ability to arbitrage it. And for the people in the audience who don't know what that means, I'll give a brief overview as if I was talking to a normie. So the price is often different between the exchange and buying directly from Jupiter or Radium. And when that happens, you'll find people who their entire way of making money in crypto is buying a huge bag on either the exchange or on the native platform, buying it for whichever price is lower, sending it to the location where the price is higher, and then selling, then full clipping out and rinsing and repeating that process over and over again. And that ends up hurting your chart a lot if you don't have enough volume and you don't have a high enough market cap, because they're basically just swinging the chart nonstop between the two places where you can buy it. So in my opinion, and again, at a higher market cap, I think exchanges are necessary to get from that 50 to 100 million higher. But where we're at right now, I don't think it would be in the best interest of my investors to even think about an exchange, because it opens us up to that arbitrage. And I do believe, I think managing risks is important, and I care a lot about my investors. I mean, we've got our dev wallet is locked with Team Finance, our marketing and team wallets all have multi-sig on them. So 3 people have to sign off on any kind of transfer or sell coming out of those. So we're very, very big on project security. And I think that in that realm and making sure that our investors are safe, an exchange is not a good idea at the time.
Yeah, definitely fair points there. I'm also a big believer in building up a really good base of dex listings and being elsewhere before you get to a centralized exchange. I think there's a lot of shady shit that happens behind the scenes when it comes to centralized exchanges. So you want to make sure that your project is solidified and big enough, obviously to avoid a lot of the traps that can happen. Um, Next question's from Beehiver. He asked, "Tell me 3 things that a meme coin project should have in order to be sustainable."
Easy. Team, community, narrative. The team has to be honest, full of integrity, and hardworking. The community has to be engaged and have conviction. And then the narrative has to be something that will resonate with people. And again, it could be, it could be a funny cartoon. It could be something involving current events that people are talking a lot about. And it could be something that people resonate with long term, whether it's, the freedom meta like we're supporting, or one of these Matt Fury characters, or there's a new one. There's a new one that I saw that's a goldfish that's based on the character from Seth MacFarlane's show American Dad. But it's got to have that community, narrative, and team. Those 3 things have to line up. With those 3 things, it is set and ready for takeoff. There's obviously some other catalysts that have to happen, but community, narrative, and team are the 3 big things.
Community, narrative, and team. I definitely agree with all 3 of those. Vic Van asked a question that takes a little bit of a step back, a little bit more general about your personal journey. Was there a time when you had a big loss during your crypto journey, and what did you learn from it, and how did you get back on track?
Yes, this was a sad day in John's world. So I bought SafeMoon, I think the day after it launched. I didn't invest much. However, I saw that $250 investment go up to over $100,000. And then I was not nearly as savvy on things like wallet security, making sure the transaction goes through smoothly, doing my research and all those other things as I am now. So when the SafeMoon version 1 to version 2 migration happened and you started getting rewards on the SafeMoon app, instead of converting my tokens from V1 to V2 and then sending them, I sent the V1 tokens that I had, which again were worth over 100K, to the SafeMoon V2 wallet address. And guess what happened? They all disappeared. So that was a costly button push that lost me 100K of unrealized gains. And since then, I have become much, much, much more, I guess, cautious, deliberate, and diligent in how I push buttons on my phone or my keyboard.
Yeah, I think many of us have had moments like that. That's obviously a big one. So yeah, definitely a good lesson to learn, and double checking, triple checking, quadruple checking
No,
what you're doing.
I did say you either win or you learn in each interaction. That one didn't really feel like a learn. It felt like a kick in the nuts, but I did learn from it. So that's important.
Yeah. When there's no one to blame but yourself, it definitely can can feel that way. I've definitely done the same more than one time. Another question from Vic Van, which is again a little bit more generalized. Which meme coin project or name do you think is fascinating right now? What has your attention?
A Memecoin name that I think is fascinating right now. I tend to go towards the humorous ones. I'll tell you three that I've seen recently that are funny. There was one that I did not buy into called Gas Station Boner Pill Inu, which is just funny. There was one that a friend of mine launched as a joke that absolutely took off on the charts for a little bit. And that's he was making a joke with one of his buddies so whenever one of his buddies came into a chat, he would say whale come instead of welcome. And so he actually made a parody of that as again, completely as a joke called whale come, WHALE space CUM. And there were some hilarious memes and hilarious videos and stuff that came from that. I think it ran up to 1 mil. And I think they're still around. I don't know what they're at now. And then the third one is called Democrats Coping, and it's all about like if you remember after Trump won last time, you had all of the people who there were the triggered memes, and then there were the blue-haired women saying they weren't going on a sex strike, and then there were all the celebrities that say they're moving to Canada if Trump wins, and it sort of makes fun of that. But they've got something really cool in their Telegram group that they've got a bot that's called the Karen bot that is sort of like a liberal who's very angry about everything that happens, especially if you mention the word Trump. So I think that one is definitely very, very, very funny. And again, you mentioned meme coins are supposed to be fun. If you laugh, there's a use case for it. I think laughter and fun are the real utilities of meme coins, and that's something that eliciting emotion is so important. Whether it's a sense of pride or a sense of laughter or a sense of joy or a sense of hey, that's a cute dog. I think those are all things that have a narrative that could send.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's making an impact is whether it's emotional or otherwise is definitely a good strategy in many ways, and really just nice to have in this space. Again, like I said earlier, can this space can get very serious. It can get very dark as well. Um, so it's one thing I've definitely enjoyed about the meme coin part of things. Beehiver asks another good question. How can a crypto enthusiast distinguish between a solid meme project and one that is intended for rug pulls? And I'll add a little bit to that and ask, do you use any tools, and what are some key things you look for outside of what you mentioned before about the team and community?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. So I know I'll answer this from two different perspectives. So one, sorry, someone was calling me, so it cut out my audio.
Very
Um,
good.
so two different perspectives. One is like the TA people, the people who do technical analysis and look at charts and look at wallets and all that stuff. They use a program called Bubble Maps, which will show you if the dev has sort of put a bunch of stuff out there that looks like it could be shady, that looks like they could farm or rug the community. And that's for like the technical analysis people, the people who look at charts. That is not me. I rarely even look at a chart before buying into a project because again, the things I care about are more feelings. So narrative, community, team. So what I will do before investing heavily in something is first I'll say, number one, first question, does it elicit emotion? Does it make me laugh? Does it make me pissed off? Does it, give me a sense of pride? Is it something I believe in? That's number one. If the answer is yes, then I'll look at their Twitter posts and I will go into their Telegram. And there's things to look at on Twitter where they can do fake engagement and botted engagement. And that's if you see a person on Twitter or an account on Twitter that has like 100,000 followers,